Hey everybody, it's Mark, Dr. Deadwax, day 41 of the Inbox Challenge, and today's numbers were picked by TBW3100. That's Trevor. Trevor has watched and commented on every one of these videos so far. Trevor has probably put more work into the Inbox Challenge than I have. Thanks, Trev. Trevor picked three numbers, going to do all three records. It's going to be a quick one. Thank God. First record, Gone with the Wind, Dave Brubeck Quartet. This is an original US mono pressing. You can tell it's mono by CL317. This was owned by the famous Tom Pollard. We all know Tom Pollard, right? I think he was an astronaut. Okay, maybe not. Maybe he's just some guy. Original US Columbia 6-eye. You can tell it's a 6-eye by the 6 eyes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the other side. And this has 2A and 2E stampers. And this is like a really nice, clean, that's a flint on there, but it's a nice, clean copy. And sadly, it is noisier than hell. So it obviously had like a grinder for a needle on it for years that kind of, the person took care of the record, but it's sadly, the groove, it just has really bad groove damage and it sounds incredibly staticky. Musically, Gone with the Wind, it's kind of a selection of classic and, you know, southern songs. You know, maybe a concept idea they came up with. Gone with the Wind, with the arches and everything. And so Swanee River, The Lonesome Road, Georgia on My Mind, Camptown Races, Shorten and Bread, Basin Street Blues, Old Man River, and Gone with the Wind. So we got the theme yet? Do we want more Dave Brubeck records besides Time Out? Or is Time Out all we need? Also comes with the advertising in here that tells you how to take care of your records and your needle, and then shows you a whole bunch of mediocre titles you'd never want to own, like Ray Conniff and Vic Damone and Johnny Mathis and Judy Holliday. Sadly, not a great advertising in her. So do you want to own more Brubeck Quartet? If you do, this is a good one. If you're like me and maybe you just want to go to Time Out because it's so incredibly classic sounding and has all those great time signatures and such great work, then maybe you want to go to that. This is the Quartet again. You know, Paul Desmond, Joe Morello, Gene Wright, Dave Brubeck. Joe Morello on drums, Desmond with that iconic saxophone, iconic alto. It sounds like the Brubeck Quartet. So if you want more of that sound, if you love that sound and you want more of that in your collection, I recommend this record. If you don't want a record that, if you want, you know, maybe you only need Time Out. I'm kind of at the stage I only need Time Out. I have a whole bunch of Brubeck and I only listen to Time Out. Next up is Bob Marley and the Wailers, Exodus. This is the first Canadian pressing on Island. What's interesting, this is the first Canadian pressing on Island, but as you can see, it's manufactured and distributed by Island Records Inc., Sunset Boulevard, LA. But the actual vinyl itself is manufactured at 93 Bedford Road, Toronto, Ontario. So this is a classic situation that I talk about all the time, where a first pressing early release in Canada will often be in some way, in actuality, a US record. Sometimes the entire thing, everything about it is American. Sometimes it's American but stamped that it's Canadian. Sometimes it's a cover from the US and a record made in Canada. Sometimes it's a record from the US and a cover made in Canada. This has the three-dimensional, like embossed, raised Exodus, and the lions on the back are raised as well. A classic Bob Marley album. Natural Mystic, Exodus, Jammin', Waiting in Vain, Turn Your Lights Down Low, Three Little Birds, One Love, People Get Ready. I mean, this is just classic, classic, classic. And I think Jammin' was his big, huge commercial breakout hit in the Western world. I can highly recommend this record. Myself, I don't listen to much Bob Marley anymore. I had that 4 CD box set kind of history of his that included all that early ska stuff that he did in Jamaica before he got like an international recording deal, and I listened to that for years, just love it, and I just kind of Bob Marley'd out. I've kind of moved on, but I can highly recommend this as an excellent example of a Bob Marley record. This example I won't be keeping because while it's a first, it's kind of scratchy. I got it free and I thought I'd keep it because, you know, maybe the scratched record would be a winner. You know how that works out sometimes? Not this time. This is just a crackling stack of wax, so this is on its way out. But it's yet again a good example of how, you know, sometimes they would stick a sticker on a record in the US and call it a Canadian record. Sometimes they did absolutely nothing and called it a Canadian record. And the third record today is David Bowie, The Man Who Sold the World. So this is the second pressing of this in Canada. This has the second cover. I believe the first cover is the cartoon cover that's heavily faked, and the odds are statistically that you're going to have a fake and not a real one of that. Classic Bowie album. People love this record. I'm not a massive Bowie fan. I liked this record. I got this for free again in a collection. It was scratched, and I hope it would be quiet and a real winner. And unfortunately, all the scuffs and everything are just 100% audible. But this is Canadian pressing on the RCA Victor label. Now, one of the interesting things is this says Dynaflex, but this is a Canadian pressing, so the Dynaflex is not so flex. The US, if this was a US pressing, the Dynaflex would be super flexible. This is about as flexible as any other Canadian record of this thickness. Because while the label says Dynaflex here, in Canada, we didn't use the Dynaflex formulation. They just kept pressing on normal records. Now in the United States, when the kids would go away on summer holidays, RCA would go into every student's locker in the United States and steal their big pens and then take them to the factory and melt them down to make records to sell to the students in the fall year and for the Christmas rush. And that's where they got the material to make that Dynaflex. So if you want a Dynaflex record and you live in the US and there's pressings on it that you just love, find yourself some Canadian pressings because they're better. They're not perfect, but they're better. Sadly, this is, you know, again scratched and not listenable really, but it is pressed at one of my favorite plants, a place I just have a love for, which is the Smiths Falls RCA plant, who pressed so many records from a period from like 67 to 72 that I will be keeping this record even though it's unplayable basically. So those are today's records. A good Bowie record. Some people absolutely adore it. I think it's a pretty damn good one. I'm just not a huge Bowie fan. I love Scary Monsters. That's the kind of I really like that one. And unfortunately, I saw him live on that tour where everybody could you could phone in. There was like an 800 number and pick the songs, and he was never ever going to play those songs again after the tour. He was doing Tin Machine. He was never going to do a David Bowie cover song with Tin Machine. He was done. He was never doing them again. So he went out on tour and he did a really shitty job performing them live because he was never doing them again. But he sold all of his tickets for it, and now he does them again all the time. So, but the concert was just a snore fest. Holy crap. I was like, this guy's so boring. So, anyway, pretty good record. grab it if you're interested. Definitely grab yourself a copy of Exodus, but not a noisy, shitty one like this. And if you need more Dave Brubeck in your life, you can always grab this one. So that's it. That's the end of day 41 of the Inbox Challenge. That's the end of the 100th video from Dr. Deadwax. Thanks for watching, subscribing, commenting, heckling, making me speak French, watching me go bald. Have a great day, everybody. Keep the record spinning.